Today we're celebrating the one-year launch of Miami TechWorks and the Tech Talent Coalition, which is funded through the Economic Development Administration grant, which was a $10 million grant through Miami-Dade College, FIU, FMU, BrainStation, 4Geeks, and OIC. It's a huge investment into the tech talent ecosystem in South Florida. Very quickly, I want to introduce my counterpart, fellow leader in this ecosystem, who is going to talk about the wonderful things that she's doing. And I'm not going to steal her thunder, but I'm going to welcome up Chessie, who's going to share some.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Chessie de Quesada-Covey. I'm the Chief of Innovation and Economic Development for Miami-Dade County. On behalf of Mayor Levine Cava, Miami-Dade County's mayor, who is in Tallahassee today for Day Days, welcome to the one-year anniversary of Miami TechWorks. It is not so seldom anymore, but it used to be more seldom that we would have these events to talk about everything that is happening in the community. And I am just in so much awe of the energy in this room and the opportunity to meet with all of you. And a lot of this work is driven because of the incredible leadership of Miami-Dade College, but especially Terry Ann Brown, who is a force of nature and who not only is able to galvanize the energy that is in this room, but is also able to articulate and amplify everything that we are doing here in Miami-Dade County in Washington, D.C. I just want to take a moment to say that last night I had the opportunity to meet with some of the folks that are evaluating Miami TechWorks for the EDA on the grant, and they could not be more consistent and congratulatory for Terry Ann's leadership. And we are really, really lucky to have her leading this. And so I know we did one round of applause, but just a second one to get us started for the day. Terry Ann, thank you so much. So my role in Miami-Dade County at Miami-Dade County is to help us think about our future-ready economy. And so that means three things. One, economic development. How do we build, grow, and scale companies that are here? Two, economic opportunity. How do we make sure that our residents have access to good paying careers and that they have the tools and resources that they need to access those good paying careers? And then three, economic innovation. So how do we make sure that as much as possible, we are constantly working with the private sector to stay ahead of what industry needs? Now, government is known to be a little bit slower than industry, but that is why we value partnerships like this, so that we can hear from all of you and make sure that we understand how to be as front-footed as possible. I know you all have a great event planned today. Please know that Miami-Dade County is your partner in all of the work that you are doing. We want to make sure that we are making resources available to you, from capital to more jobs fairs to amplification. So lean on us to make sure that we are telling your story as much as possible. And I just want to point out one person that's in the room that will be that just joined our team from Beacon Council, and that will be here today, James Compston. If you could stand up, please. He joined this week as the Director of Economic Development for Miami-Dade County after being at Beacon Council for 17 years, leading the process to get businesses down here and help them grow. We are delighted to have James here with us. It's day 3 for him, so make sure that you ask him all of the questions. And if you have any complaints, he's already taking them, so you can send them over to him too. But we're just delighted to have him here, and he'll make sure that he's connecting with all of you on the great work we're doing. So thank you so much, and have a great day.
So now I have the pleasure of kicking off the agenda officially. And that also brings me the opportunity to talk about how we got here, which is always where we start. And the Good Jobs Challenge grant is a $10 million cash infusion that, SIFE likes to say, it's your tax dollars at work. We were awarded this fund through the Biden administration back in 2022. And my role as the grant director is to figure out how do we strategically implement these dollars into the community through MDC, FIU, FMU, OIC of South Florida, and now we've added on Brain Station, 4Geeks, and then we'll talk about the other training providers that we're adding on. But it's more than that. We're also taking a look at what are the other areas in the community that need to ensure that the tech talent ecosystem can thrive, survive, and maintain. And we're always thinking about beyond the grant period, which ends September 2025, the problem of solving tech talent hiring is not going to go away. So there's always a sustainability perspective, right? And if Antonio was here, he'd be saying the reason that this is such a critical issue is because until we start getting everybody in the room and speaking, we will not have transparency as to what exactly are the issues. We needed employers, academic institutions, community-based organizations, all around the table being honest and open that what South Florida has in terms of assets, challenges, and opportunities, we really needed to start talking about them. And so that's what Miami Tech Works, and that's what the Tech Talent Coalition is here to do. And that's what we have been doing over the last year through our working groups, through lots of qualitative conversations, through lots of one-on-one discussions. And we just want to continue that going into our next phase, which we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. So what I'm excited to report is on our grant progress. When you've got this much amount of federal dollars, you want to make sure that you're always reporting back in a responsible way. So it's myself, I've got my 3 project managers who you all I'm sure have met. We've got our database and reports analysts, and then we've got our grant coordinator. So our KPIs ultimately are that we train 1,000 people in technology jobs, and that we place 500 of those in good jobs. How we get there is through lots of data tracking, which we've got a data platform that we ask all of our partners to include this data. We also track any barriers to success, those wraparound services. You're going to hear a little bit later about what those wraparound services could include. To date, we have about 551 participants that we're tracking. We have about 137 of those that have completed training. And then what we know so far is that we've got 4 of them that have actually successfully been placed in jobs, and then we have 47 that have received internships. Thank you. But if somebody were to ask me what keeps me up at night, I'm like, oh my God, it's still not enough. It's still not enough. Because what it reflects is that it's a really small sample size of what the pipeline actually is, right? We only have a few of our academic partners and a few of our training providers actually reflected in our grant. We know that there's a lot more out there because we're talking to them every day. We've got Barry University in the room. We have Northeastern, that's a part of our coalition. We have University of Miami. We're talking to FAU. We're talking to College of the Florida Keys. So through this Tech Talent Coalition, we know that there's so many assets that are working on solving the tech talent pipeline, but through the Good Jobs Challenge grant, we only have a few training providers. And so when I was preparing for this talk, I said, we've got to make sure, because we're very data-driven, we've got to make sure that we're looking closely at what the data is telling us. And I also want to make sure that we as South Florida, we are not influenced by a lot of national data. And so when the report comes out that, there's tech layoffs, and there's tech companies that are laying off 2,400, 3,000 people, how is that affecting us? Well, in the latest CompTIA Bureau of Labor Statistics report, it actually showed that in the last month, Miami increased its job postings in tech hiring. Now, where are those jobs? And how can we ensure that their tech talent will be able to land those jobs? So we can't be persuaded or be emotionally responsive to some of the national headlines. We need to stay focused on what's happening here regionally. So in terms of what's next for the Tech Talent Coalition and Miami Tech Works, One of our key outputs this next 6 months, I would say, is we're actually conducting a data gap analysis. And you're going to hear a little bit about that later too. But one of the key questions that we're going to ask is, what are the nature of the tech jobs? What does that pipeline look like? And where are the gaps between what's being posted by these employers and what's actually in the pipeline, and how can we bridge that gap? And you're going to hear that a lot, bridging the gap between what's happening with employers and what's happening with academic institutions. The other key output that we're looking at from the grant perspective is we want to make sure that there's that readiness level on both sides of the equation. We know that we've got talent, that academic institutions and training providers are working really hard to ensure that they're ready for that job. But we also know that we've got small businesses who are relying on capacity building. So the grant has technical assistance workshops where we've done the work of getting the subject matter experts. We know that we can deploy these technical assistance workshops. So you're going to start to see Miami TechWorks out and about with our partners, whether it's the Minority Business Council or the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, deploying workshops to help small businesses build capacity to hire tech talent, whether it's through internships, apprenticeships, or doing even smaller programs like micro internships or sprinterships. These all add value to employers to engage early and often with talent. And that's the key to building their capacity as well. And then on the talent side, you're going to see this quite often, the Venture Miami Hiring Fair. That's going to be one of our key outputs as well. Let's make sure that we can get talent ready for the hiring fair so that they know how to interview, so that they know how to prepare their LinkedIn, their job description. We're working on a two-sided marketplace, and the only way that we can ensure success is that both sides of the equation are ready. So I'm excited for what today is gonna hold. It's gonna be a lot of information sharing. You're also gonna hear from our chairs, the members of our coalition, and you're also gonna hear from my team, who all have a designated target area that they're supporting for the grant. So super excited, and I'm ready to get started. So.